In a significant shift in North American economic relations, Canada has launched an unprecedented $110 billion energy retaliation against the United States, escalating the ongoing trade dispute between the allies. The conflict, which began during Trump's tariff policies, has reached a turning point with Ontario's 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, targeting American states dependent on Canadian power. This isn't just about dollars and cents anymore, explains Dr. Robert Anderson, senior economist at the Fraser Institute. We're witnessing a fundamental reshaping of the North American economic landscape. The dispute originated from Trump's 25% tariffs on Canadian imports, including steel, aluminum, lumber, and dairy industries. These measures were condemned by then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as a betrayal of the U.S.-Canada partnership. Under new Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada is taking unprecedented economic action. Carney, former Bank of England governor, has signaled that Canada will no longer accept unilateral American trade actions without consequence. The implications extend beyond immediate economic impacts, reflecting a global pattern where traditional allies engage in economic warfare. Industry experts predict American consumers, particularly in border states, will face increased electricity costs. With over $700 billion in annual trade between the two countries at stake, the ramifications of this dispute will likely affect global markets for years. The resolution may depend less on diplomatic channels and more on economic interdependence. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether these two economic giants can return to cooperation or if this marks the beginning of a more confrontational era in North American trade relations. In a dramatic escalation of the U.S.-Canada trade war, Ontario has implemented a 25% surcharge on electricity exports, sending shockwaves through multiple U.S. states. This bold move is fundamentally reshaping the North American energy landscape. Premier Doug Ford's administration has targeted states heavily dependent on Canadian power, including Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. The impact is immediate, with American households facing potential increases of up to $100 in monthly utility bills. The surcharge is expected to generate between $300,000 and $400,000 in daily revenue for Ontario. The American people didn't ask for this trade war, Premier Ford stated, pointing at former President Trump's tariff policies. Ford's warning that further increases could follow any additional U.S. tariffs has sent ripples through diplomatic channels. The response from affected U.S. states has been swift. Michigan officials have raised alarms about power grid instability, while New York's Governor Kathy Hochul has launched an investigation into the surcharge's impact. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz has criticized Trump's role, describing it as economic recklessness. This confrontation coincides with a shift in Canadian leadership. Following Justin Trudeau's resignation, Mark Carney, former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, has assumed the role of Prime Minister. Carney's appointment signals a new era in Canadian economic strategy. The Ontario surcharge represents more than a retaliatory measure. It's a message that Canada is adopting a more assertive stance in protecting its economic interests. Analysts suggest this could mark the beginning of a more confrontational phase in U.S.-Canada relations, with energy exports becoming a key battlefield. Market observers note this development could have far-reaching implications for North American energy integration and trade relations, potentially forcing a reassessment of cross-border energy dependencies. In a dramatic escalation of U.S.-Canada trade tensions, Prime Minister Mark Carney's bold economic strategy is sending shockwaves across North America. The former Bank of England governor has doubled down on Canada's $110 billion energy response to American trade aggression. "We will maintain these measures until the United States demonstrates a genuine commitment to fair trade," Carney declared, positioning Canada as an emerging energy superpower. His strategy leverages Canada's vast natural resources to reshape North American trade relations. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has emerged as a vocal critic, warning of potential financial instability. Carney's aggressive approach could destabilize our economic framework, Poilievre cautioned during a parliamentary session. Ontario's 25% electricity surcharge is impacting American states dependent on Canadian power. Michigan, Minnesota, and New York face challenges as utility companies warn of price hikes and grid stability concerns. Michigan's Public Service Commission has raised concerns about grid vulnerability and cybersecurity risks. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called the situation economic warfare, urging former President Trump to reconsider his tariff strategy. In New York, Governor Hochul characterized the conflict as recklessly destabilizing. Trump responded defiantly, labeling Ontario's surcharge a hostile act and threatening retaliation. This stance has created anxiety among business leaders and consumers on both sides of the border. Carney's strategy, backed by his global financial experience and Liberal Party support, appears set to continue despite pressure. Analysts suggest this confrontation could reshape North American energy trade patterns for decades. The situation mirrors similar trade conflicts in other regions, particularly energy disputes between Russia and its Western neighbors, where resource leverage has been used as a strategic tool in negotiations. Breaking news: Canada's energy counterattack reshapes North American trade relations. In a dramatic escalation of the US-Canada trade dispute, financial markets are experiencing turbulence as Canada unleashes a $110 billion energy-focused retaliation against American tariffs. The impact is sending shockwaves through crucial swing states, where voters view trade policy as a decisive election issue. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has emerged as a key figure in this economic showdown, suggesting an expansion of retaliatory measures beyond energy tariffs. These potential targets include American food products, alcoholic beverages, and automotive exports. The most powerful weapon in Canada's arsenal remains its energy exports. "We're holding the trump card," Ford declared, referencing Canada's daily export of 4 million barrels of oil to the United States. This leverage has transformed a trade dispute into a strategic energy confrontation. Prime Minister Mark Carney is orchestrating a strategy to reduce Canadian dependence on U.S. markets. His plan includes expanding renewable energy production, securing new trade agreements with Asian and European partners, developing energy infrastructure through pipeline construction. The strategy represents a shift toward Canadian economic autonomy, with Carney positioning the nation to operate independently from U.S. markets. This transformation could alter North American trade dynamics for decades. Market analysts are watching for President Trump's response. Will the administration escalate with additional tariffs, or will pressure from affected states force a reconsideration of trade policies? As U.S. businesses brace for energy price spikes and supply chain disruptions, the effects are visible in consumer markets. The situation has created uncertainty in U.S.-Canada relations, with both nations' economies at stake. This trade conflict highlights a shift in Canadian foreign policy, as the nation moves to assert its economic sovereignty and leverage its resources for strategic advantage. The outcome could redefine the relationship between these longtime allies. Breaking news: the United States and Canada are locked in the most significant trade dispute in North American history, with implications that could reshape continental economics. "This isn't your typical trade spat," says Dr. James Morrison, senior fellow at the Global Trade Institute. "We're watching Canada challenge American economic dominance in unprecedented ways." The conflict centers on Canada's $110 billion energy retaliation package, including Ontario's 25% surcharge on electricity exports to U.S. states. This move targets American consumers and industries relying on Canadian power supplies. Former President Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods sparked this escalation, but analysts suggest deeper issues. "What we're seeing is Canada's emergence as an independent economic powerhouse," explains Morrison. Market observers compare this to Western nations' response to energy challenges during the Black Sea crisis. Canada holds significant leverage through its energy resources and strategic position. U.S. manufacturing states depending on Canadian electricity face potential brownouts and price spikes, while Canadian provinces balance sovereignty with trade relationships. Prime Minister Carney's administration appears ready for a prolonged standoff. "Canada will not back down from protecting its economic interests," stated a spokesperson. "Our response is measured but firm." Trade experts predict 3 possible outcomes. 1. A negotiated settlement with both sides claiming victory. 2. Escalation leading to broader economic disruption. 3. A fundamental restructuring of North American trade relationships. Expect higher prices on both sides of the border as this situation unfolds. Energy costs, particularly in northern U.S. states, could surge by winter. Stay tuned for continuous updates on this developing story. Share your thoughts on whether Canada's tough stance will succeed in bringing about meaningful change in U.S. trade policies.